Hello and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today I am going to touch on a sensitive topic because eating to hunger slash intuitive eating is crap, bullshit, and I'll explain why I would say down below, but this is a podcast, so through this podcast, it doesn't work. Your brain tricks you into overeating. It is more than just willpower. It is more than just you need to try harder. Discipline. I'm going to teach you how to take control and teach you how to understand the complex nature of appetite so you can be prepared for it and set yourself up for success so you can build a shield against it moving forward, because hunger in phallus phases is normal, but you can also experience hunger when you're eating into a very big surplus. There are people that are still hungry that you can see are overeating themselves into health issues. So let's talk about it. Appetite isn't just hunger. There's hormones, neurotransmitters, environment, psychology, even genetics. And if you've lost a lot of weight in the past, that also plays a huge role. There is another part in here, which, as I mentioned with neurotransmitters, people like those with ADHD and autism and have other elements of this that impact appetite due to the neurotransmitters, which is why it's not just willpower. It's not just listening to your body, and kind of appreciating the fact that it can be hard to understand what your body is telling you. If you don't understand all the different things that influence your appetite, it is hard to understand what your body is telling you. I want food. I want to eat. It's time to eat because the clock says so. My body's telling me to eat now. Is it really? Or is it just your appetite, which is different from hunger? They're two different things. So here's what's going on. I'm going to just briefly rush over the science part of it and make it as digestible as possible and then go into the rest, because I want you to understand that your body has hunger hormones like ghrelin, your body getting the signal, feed me. So your hunger hormone is ghrelin. And then the fullness hormone is leptin. It tells your brain to stop eating. Here's the catch. While ghrelin is sent from the stomach, leptin is sent from fat. The more fat you have, typically, quote unquote, typically, you will have more leptin signaling. But if you think about that, then why are people that have a lot of body fat still eating more food? It's because when you get a lot of a signal, this kind of works the same as insulin resistance. When you get a lot of that leptin signaling, your body becomes deaf to the signal. It won't want to listen to it because it's so used to hearing it. So it just becomes this kind of moot set point. And then there's GLP-1. That is another satiety sort of hormone. GLP-1 is triggered by eating more fiber and more protein. So you can influence your GLP-1 signals just by how you eat. A lot of people eat way too many ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods typically lack protein and fiber. And because they're ultra-processed, they are digested so fast that your brain hardly recognizes them, therefore you don't get a GLP-1 response. Therefore, you are left unsatisfied wanting more food, even though you just ate 300 calories, 500 calories, that such. Did you also know that when your protein intake is low, or when your meals are skewed more towards carbs and fats, your body will make you eat more calories than you need. It will keep wanting more and more calories until it's got enough amino acids to make it feel quote unquote safe, because your body doesn't want to ever use protein as fuel. It's going to use carbs and fats because carbs and fats are fuels. It needs protein to function. Protein is metabolism, it's hormones, it's enzymes, it's everything. It's your hair, your skin, your nails, it's your immune system. Your body needs the protein because amino acids fuel all of these things. So it's going to want to get as much fuel as it can until it satisfies its protein needs. And those protein needs vary depending on the person. And then we have dopamine and food motivation, which plays a big role in cravings and making you want to keep eating. When you anticipate rewarding foods, like when you're scrolling Instagram and you see this gooey brownie, it's kind of really hard to then not have that ruminating in your brain. And then you'll start to want more foods, and maybe you might start feeling hungry, which is why it's really important to watch what you're liking on Instagram, because your explore feed can kind of set you off track in that sense. And this is why just listen to your body is really, really bad advice. Because how many times have you heard eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, or just listen to your body, intuitive eating, give your body what it needs, it knows what it should need, but it doesn't. It's garbage advice. And why? I'm going to talk about all of the reasons why through the rest of this episode, but I just gave you a few reasons why. The dopamine is a huge one there too. But most of us have spent years in some sort of yo-yo dieting cycle, or thinking about dieting, or seeing food in a different lens than a child, which is typically what they like to say. A child knows when they're hungry and when they're full. That's typically where that whole intuitive thing comes from. Like, no, we're not innocent anymore. We're not naive anymore. We're exposed to so much shit online, things that influence us. And not only that, the entire environment has changed. And children don't even know that anymore, because they're sitting inside playing whatever they play. Some of them aren't doing that, which is amazing. But then there's the food environment. There's Macca's, there's this, there's that, the other. So your body's signals are confused. They're like a toddler in a candy store. It sounds great in theory to just intuitively eat, but most people need to rebuild trust with not only their hunger cues, but their bodies, with themselves, with the process, building a healthier relationship with food, with the process, with body image in general. Otherwise, it's just like trying to run a marathon when you haven't even got shoes. And then when you get shoes, you haven't even laced them up. But by that logic, to be honest, we should start like an intuitive movement thing, because so many people don't intuitively move. It's like, yeah, intuitively eat. Our bodies know what they want. Well, your body wants to move. Like, we were born to move. And so many of us would intuitively sit on the couch, just like we would intuitively want to eat a packet of crisps while we're sitting on the couch. That's the problem. That is the problem. And movement is one of the biggest factors of not only health, but your metabolism, your results, staying lean, etc. And like I mentioned, the environment is full of triggers, and it's designed to make us overeat. Think about smelling fresh cookies, or you walk past the bakery, or you're driving down the road and you can smell them cooking grilled something or steak, or even just frying chips. I hate the smell of McDonald's. I always go to say Macca's, but I know so many of you Americans don't call it Macca's. I'll say Macca's anyway. Macca's chips give me the grossness because it just smells like oil. But there are so many smells that could just make us want to eat food, even when we just ate a huge breakfast. That's your environment pulling tricks on your brain. And same with that Instagram reel that I mentioned about the brownies. Hyperpalatable foods are sugar, fat, and salt bombs. This is where most of us blame carbs, but carbs aren't the issue. Insulin isn't the issue here. It's this packed goodness of sugar, fat, and salt that hijack your body, hijack your brain, because they are engineered to light up your reward system like a Christmas tree. Your body's like, more, please. You know that Oliver, is that Oliver that says it? Can I have some more, please? Like chips and ice cream. They make it impossible for you to stop at just one. It's not just the food, it's the environment. Oreos on the kitchen counter versus prepped veggies in the fridge. It can make it hard to stick to your intentions. If calorie-dense processed foods are always within reach, even at work, like your work environment is key here too. When the office has cookies out, it's really hard, and your willpower is going to get tested. The constant availability of tempting foods, even in stores, like when you go to the shopping store, you walk in, the first thing you see are the chocolate stands, and then you're going to check out, and then the next thing you see are the little $1 this and $2 that and 50-cent this. Your willpower is on overdrive 24/7, and it wears down, especially if you have a lot of stress in your life, especially if something happened or you didn't have a good night's sleep. And this is why it's not about motivation and it's not about willpower. We just need to shift our approach to health and fitness and realize that we are influenced by who we follow, the advice we are exposed to, and the environments we spend the most time in. And not just our physical environments. Our social environments are huge. Like I mentioned, there's the work environment, but there's also your friends. Or when you go out to restaurants, many people feel peer pressured into ordering a dessert, even though no one really said anything. It's like, well, they're going to judge me if I'm just eating healthy food. Oh, look at her. She's trying to be good when they're not on the same wavelength as you. Or if I mentioned it in another podcast, sometimes if we don't look like a fit person yet, or we haven't got results, we might feel like we shouldn't be making this salady choice because it's like, look at her, she's eating a salad and she still looks like that. That's like our internal judgments on ourselves. Because that was the thought that I had. That is exactly why I said it. And I wasn't even obese. And I still had those thoughts. So be aware of what is subtly pushing us into overeating without us realizing it. Because social media is the biggest thing here. This can even be just you comparing yourself to other people and then wondering why you aren't where they are, and then getting yourself put into a loop of rumination, body hate, and then there comes the emotional part where we go to food. Or the worst part of social media is when it makes us feel disordered or like we're giving into diet culture. It makes us feel bad for removing trigger foods and not bringing certain foods home, or trying to abstain from certain foods, which is not bad. I actually think a lot more people need to do it without trying to caveat it with, I can moderate. Sometimes you just need to stop fooling yourself and repeating the same stories, because that's something that you kind of hold yourself to. It can be the very thing holding you back. For example, one of my clients, after dinner, sometimes not even after dinner, just through the day, she would just scoop out the peanut butter for no reason. Not hungry. It was just a thing she did. It was, I don't know, comfort. I don't know. But what we did was we removed it completely. Don't buy the Mavers anymore. There's 2 brands that she loved. Her kids loved the bigger one. So she just bought the bigger one for the kids, and she told her husband to keep it locked away. And guess what? In a few months' time, she's like, do you know the peanut butter has been sitting on my counter and I haven't even touched it unless it was part of my meal? She came to me intermittent fasting on 1,600 calories. So a lot of this was to do with her approach to dieting and fitness and her results. Then we transformed that relationship with food, and she started eating breakfast. And you know what she ate for breakfast? A bagel with peanut butter and banana. No stress, no fear of losing control. My question to you is, what does your kitchen or workspace look like? Is it set up to make healthy choices, or are you finding yourself facing temptations all day? I will say, on the last group call that I had with my inner circle, it's not actually the home environment that sets people off the most, it's the environment at work. And this is where the awareness comes in, and having some tools in place to work with that. But that's a story for another podcast. I want to go back to the emotional triggers: stress, boredom, sleep deprivation. Because let's be real, if you're not sleeping enough, that's the biggest part. You're going to crave more. You're not going to want the wholesome foods. And when you're stressed, you're more likely to overeat. It's a vicious cycle. The worst part about not sleeping enough is that we tend to try to eat more food to give us more energy, but it doesn't really give us the energy that we want. Sometimes it can give us a little bit more focus, placebo. But this is where I would say, just be really aware when you have a bad night's sleep that you need to be on your feet today with the way that you go about your foods. It makes us very much more impulsive. So yeah, how's your sleep lately? There's something to think about. Now, I'm going to go into some practical strategies so I can help you through this. And a lot of it comes down to how you navigate your plates. And I already mentioned protein is a powerhouse. It keeps hunger in check, and it also helps with cravings. Fiber does the same thing. The added benefit of lean protein and getting a lot of your fiber from veggies and fruit is the fact that it expands the stomach, and there are stretch receptors in the stomach that signal, hey, I'm full. So the more volume that you eat, the more like salad greens, and just remember that if you dress it, dressings have calories and so forth. And if something says 0 calories, it's not 0 calories. Nothing has 0 calories, but salad dressings, not salad dressings, but salads, veggies, things that expand your stomach, that is going to help set you up for the day. So my biggest tip would be have a high protein, high fiber breakfast. Egg whites, maybe an egg for good measure in there too, with some spinach, whole grain toast, add extra veggies, and the bonus could be fat-free cottage cheese, which will keep you fuller for longer and add even more protein to it, plus calcium. Though I will add on to that, like I mentioned with the expanding of the stomach, the body doesn't just respond to that. Like you can expand your stomach all at once. If it's not getting enough nutrients or calories in the meals, you're still not going to stay full. Many of my clients notice that skipping carbs or keeping meals under 400 calories always backfires, and it just makes them snack more later or want more food, especially after work, pantry time, or before bed. So don't skimp on carbs or try to avoid carbs and have the lowest calorie options. Really make sure that you're making wholesome, balanced plates. The other tip I want to give you is to try to eat at the exact same times every single day. And when I say exact, I don't mean like to the minute. I mean within half an hour, maximum within an hour, because your body learns to expect food. It's kind of like waking up at the same time every day. Over time, your digestive system, it has little circadian clocks on your gut wall. It adapts to consistent meal times, meaning you can change when you get hungry and when you don't get hungry. But it does take time to adapt to that. So you have to be willing to go through the discomfort of that change and do it in small increments at a time, because your body tends to adapt in like 20 to 30-minute blocks. But if you're going from someone who like snacks throughout the day to no, I'm not snacking at all through the day, let's just do 3 meals and a dessert, or 4 meals and a dessert, you need to give yourself the grace to adapt to that. The other benefit is that eating regular meals through the day, stop skipping meals, it stabilizes your blood sugar. You're not going to get blood sugar spikes and crashes, et cetera, et cetera. But this isn't just about food either. If you're doing like excessive exercise or excessive stress, that also impacts your blood sugar. It's just that when you eat carbs, that kind of blunts the cortisol. So just be really mindful of that. And yeah, it's those are the biggest things that I would say can set you up for success. Just having regular meal times and putting a lot more protein and fibrous food on your plate, and just being aware of how your sleep, how your emotions impact your appetite, and knowing that appetite and hunger are 2 different things. A bonus tip would be being very mindful of food marketing everywhere, not just on Instagram, like on Facebook, on the TV. It's in our face because they want us to buy their products and they make it look really alluring. And if you have kids, it's really hard to avoid that stuff. So bottom line is, appetite is manageable, but you can't stop it. You shouldn't fear it, because that will just lead us into a cycle of trying to stuff ourselves full to avoid hunger, which is going to happen at some point. It's just doing our best to mitigate it. And even like drinking and staying hydrated, even diet, cordial or sugar-free water drops, flavoring, whatever you guys call it where you live, movement also helps regulate appetite. Probably the biggest things there. Understanding your appetite is a first step to taking control. Stop trying to fight it, work with it, and think about just improving upon one thing every week, one thing every month, depending on your ability to make those changes or how hard those changes are. Some changes might take you a couple of months to make. Like navigating the kitchen at work is probably the hardest thing to do. That one's going to take a lot more time to navigate, a lot more experiments to work with. Habits are hard to break. So give yourself some grace, set yourself up for success, and more than anything, build some non-food coping mechanisms, because stress eating might give you some shadow comfort where you feel good for 10 minutes, but it isn't actually the comfort you're seeking. Something like talking with a friend, walking, journaling, other things that fill your soul will bring you so much more good without the guilt of doing something you know that you didn't want to do. Be mindful with your choices and eat slowly, because it takes your brain 20 minutes to realize your stomach is full. So give it time to catch up. If this podcast helped you and you know a friend that can benefit, please share it to them. And if you would like to give me some love, aka me telling you to give me some of that love, you know, when you could actually share 3 hearts on Bieber. I don't know if anyone here had Bieber, but I was obsessed with Bieber. I wanted all the hearts. I was like, no, I'm going to be like the best in the whole school Bieber trend, because I want to be the one that has the most hearts so I can look like, anyway, please just give me 5 stars. Love you all. And if you have any other topics, let me know in the link below, and I will talk to you next time.